Thank you for joining us, Mo.
Thank you, Will.
Oh, you're welcome, Judy.
Thank you very much. So, Paul, we'll let you take over, and then we'll see you guys in 40 minutes about that, and then we'll be right back.
Great, thank you. So, Mo Murray, great to see you.
You too, Paul. It's been so long.
It's been so long, yes. Well, I also think that it's great to see you and say congratulations on your stewardship of the IMSA program for Mazda. That was a spectacular result here for the team, and I know you were a big part of all of this, going right down to the last moments of the last lap of the last race of the season.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. I tell people that my key contribution was staying out of the way, because there was a great team of people. That I didn't birth that program. That started under John Doonan, and Nelson Cosgrove had a lot to do with it. And I inherited it this year. And what I inherited was a team from Multimatic led by the wizard Larry Holt and his band of elves who just work magic. And the one thing that's incredibly important, and this resonates absolutely with the Mazda brand, is this idea that you never ever give up. You do not take your foot off the gas until you've passed the last checkered flag. And when the program in January, when they asked me to take over the program, one of the concerns was from the executive suite at Mazda was how do we once we've announced the end of the program, how do we keep people motivated? How do we keep people fired up? And my response at the time was, you don't have to worry about that. These are racers through and through, and you don't have to worry at all about motivation. They will race until the last lap of the last race. And as it turns out, through the magic of Harry Tinknell, 22 minutes from the end of the last race, Harry put the car in the lead, and we raced hard. That was not an easy win, but we raced hard until the very end of that race. And it was a really almost like a fairy tale way to end the program. The way we won the race, the way we came back from 3 laps down, thanks to the leadership on the pit box from Larry and Lena Gade and just a host of people who I don't belong with, that's for sure. I mean, it was a career highlight for me to work with people at that level, and our 3 drivers, Harry and Jonathan Bomarito and Ollie Jarvis, just exceptional way to end the program, and very, very gratifying and rewarding, not just for me, but for everybody who touched the program over the years, and all the fans. And the fan participation in that last race was really, really special and moving.
Yeah, and I've sent over some photographs. I'm not sure if the team here is going to be able to put them up as we talk here, but I hope they can, of the bodywork on this car. Yes, there it is. And
this program came about because when we announced the end of the program, as happens when manufacturers will announce a program is ending, and I want to talk about the end of this program more specifically in a minute, but let's talk about this initiative. When manufacturers announce a program is ending or changing, sometimes online forums and social media and comments can be cruel. It can be a tough place to be because everybody wants to second guess the decision and all that kind of stuff. What we found as Mazda when we announced this decision was an overwhelmingly I don't want to say positive reaction. People were disappointed, but there was an outpouring of love for the brand. The overwhelming sentiment was, we're disappointed that our favorite car is not going to be on the grid, but we love you for what you've done. We love you for staying the course through the dark days in the early part of this program, and turning this into a winner and staying the course as the accessible and racer driven brand that Mazda is. So knowing that and seeing that response, we know for years fans come to us, the drivers mostly, 99% of the time, but once in a while myself and other people on the team, and they ask for autographs. And we said, how about we turn the tables? How about we ask them for their autographs? So we asked people through an email system we set up to submit their signature, and we printed a vinyl that covered most of the car.
Wow.
before the event, and you can see all the signatures on here. These are just fans, just people who responded to our social media campaign. And we left the nose of the car free, and on site at Petit Le Mans, we had the team sign the car, all the folks who work on the car, you know, everybody's in touch with the program signed the car. And then at the grid walk, which is one of IMSA's greatest innovations, we handed out Sharpies and allowed fans to sign the car. So this truly was a fan, an homage to the fans who've stayed the course and shown their love for Mazda over all these years. I've been around the Mazda program now for almost a decade, and the one thing that's common, no matter what we do, no matter where we go or what we race, is the love that Mazda feels from the Mazda fans. And this was our way of saying thank you, as the livery says, back to those folks who share our love and our passion for racing so openly. So
Well, it first off, it is in the spirit of Mazda. Mazda is the front door to motorsport for many people. You enter motorsport as a participant many times through being a Mazda driver, and the programs that are in place. We're going to talk about it in a little bit here, but the joy that I saw across our racer universe when this program scored its first win 2 years ago was, you know, it was off the charts. Social media shares, page views, just the energy reverberated for days, because it seemed like everybody that day was a Mazda fan. And there was a gratitude, I think, to the company for all it does throughout the culture of motorsports.
And that day lasted a month. I mean, that was 3 in a row. We went 7 years without a win. And then we did 2 in a row, 7 days apart, from Watkins Glen to CTMP in Canada. And then a month later, we go and do it again at Road America. So, I mean, that was our summer of love for sure. I mean, it was an incredible experience to be part of that. And then coming back in 2020 under very difficult circumstances, very, very strong performance at Daytona. We broke the track record at Daytona, a 26-year-old track record that was held by Dan Gurney's team, AAR. And we broke that track record in setting pole position there. Then we all locked down for COVID, and it's the first race coming out of COVID is the Daytona 240 back at Daytona International Speedway, and we win that, and then we win Sebring at the end of that year, and then come into this year in even more challenging circumstances with a change of leadership, and we win the 6 Hours of the Glen again, and close out the program with a Petit win, which is very, very special. Actually, one of the drivers who we stepped back to just a long distance enduro driver this year, Jonathan Bomarito, who's been around the program forever. Bomber has now won the GT class at the Rolex 24 in a Mazda back in the RX-8 days, and he has won the 6 Hours of the Glen twice, the Sebring 12 Hours, and Petit Le Mans. So the 4 majors, Bomarito has won in a Mazda-powered car, a Mazda car, during his career, and that was a very fitting for a guy who played such a leadership role in our program, for him to have that on his resume as he moves on to other things next year.
Yeah, the world is right because of that. I'm a big fan of Jonathan. I saw him race back when he was a young lad, and he's always had this great potential. But to see him come to full flower, full bloom as a Mazda frontline racing driver
his full potential is in the car. Certainly, he's a very, very powerful driver, and I've seen him go toe to toe with the best in the world and match them in lap times. But out of the car, he's a truly special individual. I call him the squad leader of the program. And I'll tell you a story from this year's 6 Hours of the Glen. We talk about the brain trust that's up on the pit stand, and they all work very, very, very well together. But as we came to the end of the 6 hour race, we had one more yellow. We knew we were under yellow. We didn't need a full fuel load. We only needed 10 seconds of fuel. But we had one tire going off, and it wasn't on the left side, the ones you expect to go off. It was a right front tire. So we were in a quandary. We only have 10 seconds of fuel, so we can't change 2 or 4 tires. But we need to address the tire. And it was Bomarito. He said, just change one. Change the right front tire. get Harry to the front and let him try and hold on. And it was actually Bomber's decision, and everybody on the pit stand went, okay. And that's what jumped us on that last pit stop. Jumped Harry Tinknell into the lead, and as much as we're singing
I didn't know
Bomber's
that.
praises, there is nobody better in that situation to close a race when you have to manage fuel and you have to manage traffic than Harry Tinknell. He's brilliant in that scenario, and that's what got us the 6 hours of the Glen, our second 6 hours of the Glen win. It was Bomber being absolutely involved in the calls on the pit stand, and that's one of the beauties of this team. It's such a strong team effort with you know, the engineers and the folks at AER and the Multimatic folks. It was, from a career standpoint, for me, it was a truly special year, something that I will cherish for a long time.
And I want to talk a little bit about how you got here, but before we do, I just want to say that, you know, we mentioned Jonathan Bomarito. He's a Mazda kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're really, what's special about Mazda is you bring people forward, and you bring them up. They're given opportunity. The whole premise of it is to spread the joy and the opportunity of motorsports,
Well,
from the
and
grassroots up.
when you walk down the grid of an IMSA race or you know, an IndyCar race up to a few years ago, you know, you walk through the grid of an IMSA race, there's so many drivers. Jim Campbell was just on and talked about their plans for the 31 car. They're getting one of my favorite drivers in Tristan Nunez, a Mazda kid. I mean, he was 15 when we signed him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, there are Mazda drivers or Mazda kids all over the grid. But more importantly than that is, if you go out, if you step away from the IMSA paddock or the IndyCar paddock and step away from the professional levels of racing and move out into the world where motorsports passion really exists, it's in its most raw form, and that's out into grassroots racing. That's where Mazda absolutely comes alive in paddocks, because there are so many committed and enthusiastic Mazda ambassadors. We call them our army of brand evangelists, because they're out there living the Mazda life, living their best life with Mazda in a way that's truly gratifying for us and truly rewarding as a brand.
And it shows. I mean, I've been publishing Sports Car Magazine since 1984, January 1984, and it's an inescapable truth that the heart of the SCCA really beats Mazda Blue.
Well, we often say that more Mazdas are road raced on any given weekend than any other brand, and we base that on a stat we get from SCCA every year that shows of race entries.
Right.
I think the current stat is over 55% of race entries are in a Mazda across the year in SCCA, across all the road race events in SCCA. That's staggering. So we could say more Mazdas are raced than all the other brands put together, but we don't. But the other key word in that statement is more Mazdas are raced. A couple of years ago, we had an internal debate about whether we should change that and have it read more Mazdas win road races on any given weekend than any other brand. And because the data we get supports that claim too.
Yeah.
But that doesn't represent who we are and how we want to be, how we want our constituents to feel. And the example or the analogy I use to describe that is simply this. You're a father, as I am, and when kids are little, when babies are little and they take their first steps, dads all over the world nowadays, with everyone has a phone and a camera in their pocket, they'll record that first step and they celebrate it like it's the most important thing that's ever happened, right?
Yeah.
Which is how it should be. But 99% of the people can walk. We take it for granted. It's something that most of us get to do without even thinking about it. Yet when this kid does it, it's the most important thing that happens. We feel the same way about racers. So a racer qualifies for their first SCCA runoffs.
Yeah.
They may end up in 45th place in Spec Miata or whatever the place is. But to them,
that's halfway up the grid, by the way.
Yeah. But to them, that's like winning a world championship. Or you go to a regional race, any SCCA race, and there's two guys racing for for 10th place, and the guy or girl who wins gets that 10th place, but that's their first ever top 10, and their dream of being a race car driver is now validated. It's now real to them. That's so important to Mazda. We want to celebrate that as much as we would celebrate a win at IMSA or a championship or something else, because for us, that's the real core of why we do this. Mazda has a deep belief that through all of its initiatives, but certainly through motorsports, we have an opportunity to allow people to live out their dreams, to live out their best life. And for those for whom driving a race car is their dream, we want to be the enabler of that dream. We want to be the brand that allows them access to go chase their dream and go fulfill their dreams. And that's a very important part of who Mazda is. We talked a little bit earlier about the DPI program ending, and I want people to understand that is not a strategic withdrawal from motorsports. That is not a backing away from motorsports. It's simply a tactical decision that the relationship of this program to our brand is now being outweighed by the relationship of other programs, MX5 Cup and our grassroots program, to what the brand needs. And the brand needs are around that fulfillment of people's dreams and creating a community of people who are living their best life through motorsports. And that's a very important part of why Mazda is committed to motorsports in the future.
And that's, you bring up something that opens a door to another dimension to this. When I go to the SCCA runoffs, which is one of the, if you haven't been to the SCCA runoffs, you owe yourself that treat. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's like a city full of racers that's pops up wherever it happens to be. This year it was in Indianapolis, and there are a lot of Mazdas. But Mazda has always done something really special for the racers. There's a great effort put into the experience of going racing with a Mazda, being one that's got a personality and a feel to it. You're appreciated and taken care of. The events that they hold, I've been to a number of them at the runoffs where the Mazda racers are celebrated.
David Cook runs that piece of business for Mazda and has done a great job celebrating those folks. On yesterday's sessions, you spent time with both Mike Cobb from SCCA and Tony Perella, and both of them spoke about something that's important to us, and that is, Mike talked about the access and the experience of following your dreams. And Mazda, we've always thought of ourselves, even at the pro levels, even at the IMSA level, as being the most accessible brand. People can come and talk to us. We don't put up barriers. We don't hide in motorhomes. We're out in the midst of the people, because there are people that we share the love of motorsports with the fans.
Yeah, you do.
And so accessibility is important to us, especially at those grassroots levels. And we want to give them the ability to have the experience, to have the experience that will richen their lives and the lives of those around them. And Tony Perella, who followed Mike yesterday, he talked about how he treats his racers as customers, and that's an important point, because at the grassroots level, the people paying the bills are the people driving the cars. At the pro level, drivers will go where they're paid to go, and it's a different vibe. It's a different world at the pro level, where you have big sponsors and you have media and you have all that kind of stuff. But when you step out of that paddock and you step back into a grassroots paddock, as you and I have plenty of experience doing, the drivers are the ones, and their families are the ones making all the sacrifice, and they're the customers. They're the people who we should be paying the most attention to. The people who are spending their own money and their own time and bringing their own family as team helpers to put the car together, or their buddies will step in, as Mike talked about yesterday. Their buddies will step in when something goes wrong, and they'll rebuild a car in the middle of the night, and just to get you back out on the racetrack. That's a magic that Mazda really believes in. That's a magic that really drives this sense of dream maker that we ascribe to.
you can feel it. I mean, quite honestly, one of the reasons Mazda is beloved at the top level of the sport when it competes there is that it represents those that have those dreams as a brand and as a company. You know, you're taking the battle flag of all of us who've raced a Mazda forward, and I think that one of the other elements here I wanted to talk about today, and I would just want to personally talk about your background a little bit because it's an unusual one. You know, you actually come from a motorsports background,
Yeah.
and you know, you grew up effectively in the sport.
Well, yes, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that. But I grew up in Ireland, and
Yeah.
from my early teens, I got involved I misspent all of my weekends at the greatest little racetrack in the world, Mondello Park in Naas, County Kildare, Ireland. And I started out as doing the lap charter for the announcer, and did that for a season. Then I became a corner worker and a flag waver, and I did that for several seasons, and I just loved it. I loved everything about it. Now, back when I was doing it, Mondello became the Republic of Ireland's first permanent racetrack in 1969, I believe. So here we are, about 10 years later. Ireland has a driver in Formula One in Derek Daly. You have David Kennedy and Bernard Devaney and Michael Rowe and Tommy Byrne all coming along in quick succession. And the love for motorsports, or the growth of motorsports in Ireland at the time, was just incredible. I mean, it was fantastic. And so Mondello was able to attract lots of high profile events and lots of high profile drivers, and being around that was fantastic. I then went and I sort of migrated away from that, and I spent time with some of the maddest people I have ever come across, and that's Irish motorcycle road racers. Now, I didn't race, but I traveled that circuit with some of my friends, and I worked on their bikes, and oh my, you know, that sport is incredibly dangerous, and to survive a season was an accomplishment for the riders. But to survive, for those of us around it, to survive the after party and sometimes before party of what was going around that sport was also an equal accomplishment, because that was really, really fun. I then went to England and Germany and spent some time in Europe in the predecessor to MotoGP as a mechanic and a crew chief with some success, won a European championship as a crew chief. Eventually came over here with a driver named, a German rider named Manfred Fischer, who's still a friend today. Came over here and did the same thing. Ended up owning my own race team and won a championship here, a national championship, road racing championship here. And based on the strength of all of that, Bombardier hired me to be their manager of their fledgling watercraft racing department, the Sea-Doo racing department.
And that's where our team met you, Steve Nicholas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, when we were publishing Jet Skier magazine. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I did that for 8 years or something. Ended up running watercraft and snowmobile racing, as well as their involvement in the Indy Lights series at the time. They sponsored the Indy Lights series. I then spent several years in the motorcycle industry, never very far away from racing, but involved in lots of different parts of the industry. And then about a decade ago, a little more, I got a call from a young fella who really needed my help. I'm kidding. That young fella's name was Zach Brown.
Yes, I've heard of him.
He invited me to come join JMI, but as an embedded resource at Mazda, helping bring some structure and some marketing integration to Mazda's efforts. At the time, Mazda was involved in lots and lots of different kinds of racing. And I'm still here. I'm still doing the same thing. I don't work for JMI anymore. I now work for Mazda's integrated agency, bespoke agency. But I essentially do the same job. I'm deeply involved in everything to do with Mazda Motorsports, and added this year, as you noted, the oversight of the DPI program and bringing that program to its triumphant close. Let me put it that way.
Yes, and I just want anyone who doesn't step back and appreciate how unusual that is, that someone from an agency position would be trusted with oversight of such a high visibility program. That's a credit to Mazda, understanding your background and understanding the contribution you bring, and it's a credit to the agency you work for. It's a credit to the relationship the agency has with Mazda, and you know, being a racer does have its benefits. I think many of the people that are watching this today and that we've talked to are racers at heart. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
we do make a difference.
And we gravitate to each other. That's the racers can recognize a fellow racer anywhere, and we gravitate to each other. So
yeah, at the same time, most of our conversations have not been about pure racing things. They've been about business, positioning, branding, marketing, all of the things that drive the business now. So the essence of Mazda is it's an outlier as a
I
brand.
think you're telling a little white lie there, Paul, because about 60% of our conversations are about Formula Ford.
That's true. Well, I'm excluding those because Mrs. Fanner might be listening, but but I want to say that our business-related conversations are about the world of racing from a manufacturer point of view, where the car companies fit in the conversation, how important they are. They give identity to the competition. You know, they're competitors too. The car companies are lining up. The cars themselves as identities are lining up on the grid. And a lot of people are proud to race a Mazda. They're, as we were talking about, brand advocates. And one of the reasons they are is Mazda makes cars that are very lively and fun to drive. So, you know, looking forward, you know, you have a product here that I'm addicted to. It is like the snack food I cannot put down, and that's the Global MX-5 Cup.
Exactly. You're not alone. I heard Chris Medlin mention it on Monday when you had him on here. So you're not alone. And Mazda MX-5 Cup, the Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 Cup series has just been a joy to be around. The racing is incredible. This was our first year. 2021 was our first year moving the sanction over to IMSA. We had spent 3 years racing on IndyCar weekends, which was great. But we're a sports car company. These are sports cars that belong in the IMSA paddock. And so we were able to bring MX-5 Cup.
There's a little action on the screen right now.
So that's 5 cars coming to the line of the second to last race at Road Atlanta a month ago. 2 of them are completely sideways. Gresham Wagner, who ended up winning our championship there, won the race as he crossed the line. He might have spun out had he not touched the Jared Thomas car there on the outside of him. But you know, you look back across this season. We opened the season at Daytona, where 8 cars crossed the finish line, basically all in a line, all in one group, not in a line. Then we go to Sebring. We have a winning margin at Sebring of 1,000th of a second. We couldn't measure it any smaller. And the third place guy was only 12 thousandths of a second further back. And then we go to Road America. We have another 8 thousandths of a second winning margin. And we come to the last 2 races and have a finish like on the slide you just showed. It's MX-5 Cup has been incredible. And you mentioned, you know, manufacturers are important to the sport, and the sport is also important to manufacturers. But the key is, as a manufacturer, we have to understand what the payback is to the brand. Because if it's off-brand, then it's a hobby. So we're all the time trying to find the relationship between what we're doing at the racetrack, around the racetrack, and around the community that we're trying to build, and what our brand stands for. And that's why grassroots racing and MX-5 Cup right now lend themselves more than any other program to building this community of dreamers, building this community of fellow passionate enthusiasts around the brand. We don't talk about Mazda consumers, we talk about Mazda fans. And that's what we feel from these folks. So as a manufacturer, I think it's very important that the manufacturer, no matter who they are, understands what's the role of motorsports within your brand ecosystem, and then how do you bring that to life. For us, there's a clarity coming for us that's allowing us to see where to go here, and we're very fortunate in that MX-5 Cup single make racing is. There's a lot of people paying attention to single make racing at the moment. There's a lot of manufacturers paying attention to it. And I think right now, MX-5 Cup they're not the fastest cars, but certainly it's the most entertaining single make racing that's out there, without question. And so we believe in it. We're committed to making it better without taking away the magic that's there now. And that magic is based on absolute parity. absolute parity. Those cars, if you take Gresham Wagner and put him in the car that finished last, the results will be the same. Give him an hour to set up the few things you can change, and the results will be the same because the cars have absolute parity. And across the driver lineup, we had a kid in that race in Atlanta that we just showed who just won our scholarship, which is something else we should talk about. 15 years old. And he's not the youngest that we've had in the series. A couple of years ago, we had two 14-year-olds in the series. And they're on the same grid with a man named Michael Globe, who is in his 7th decade on this earth. And he's out there at every race. And
I can relate to one of those.
Yeah. And so it's that series is magic. That series has been a real, I don't want to say an eye opener. We knew what it was all along, but once we delivered it to the IMSA audience, we were able to get it on TV and get it out to a wider audience. It really, really picked up steam this year in terms of how much people respond to it and how much people are sharing their love for MX5 Cup racing.
And I have to say, you have something, we talk to a lot of manufacturers, and I'm not going to name names here, but a lot of these manufacturers want what Mazda has here with the presence in the grassroots and something like this. This is, you have something of great value in both arenas. You also have, I think, an inevitability to be back at the top level of some form of motorsport eventually. It's just in the DNA of Mazda. But this is a good place to be while you're figuring that out. And I want to talk, before we end here today, so many of the people coming through that door that is Mazda they're not just drivers, they're mechanics, they're people actually organizing and running the events. The family of Mazda racers aren't just people competing. And but I think in one of our conversations recently, every week is race week for Mazda, because there's something somewhere that Mazda racers, either on the track or people who drive Mazdas going to the track, are doing related to motorsports. Tell me, what is the the long-term strategy to keep them engaged? How is Mazda going to continue to be relevant to these at the core of the sport? You're one of the foundational elements of North American motorsports.
Well, I think as I mentioned earlier, the top level program, the DPI program, had a tendency to be a little bit of a black hole and suck all the resources and the attention into that. Now that that's not there anymore, we have the ability. Resources are one thing, and every manufacturer deals with finite resources, but attention is perhaps more important. And we have the ability to focus Mazda's brand attention on what we have in MX5 Cup and grassroots. We've always had the desire there. We just there was too much going on, and now we have the ability to really bring some focus to both of those arenas. We have a thing called the Club Racer Shootout, which we've been doing for several years, which is an opportunity for us to identify young talent who needs a leg up. Our sport these days is you need to be wealthy in order to begin to go down most avenues. We don't like that. We wanted to create a mechanism where we could find young drivers, male or female, who have talent but maybe don't have the resources, and we run them through their paces in a shootout. We compare them against each other. We bring in independent judges, and we award a scholarship, several scholarships. We gave out 5 scholarships just recently to fund a season in either MX5 Cup or another series we have called Spec MX5, and that allows us to open the door for these dreams and allow people who might otherwise struggle to fulfill their dreams to have access and at least get out there and have a go. And what the effect we didn't really see coming in the past is we've also that system has also then enabled teams to get up and running. So Michael Carter, for example, won the scholarship, and then he won Rookie of the Year. So he took his scholarship money and his Rookie of the Year money, and between him and his dad, they formed a team, Carter Racing Enterprises, and now they're bringing in other drivers into the sport. Jared Thomas did the same thing. Copeland Motorsports was a longtime MX5 Cup team who grew from that position and now run a pretty healthy TCR program for another brand. And there are teams, and there are mechanics and crew chiefs and engineers and announcers and PR people and all kinds of people come through this Mazda. I don't want to say it's a formal ladder, but they come through this system and end up getting a foothold in the sport that allows them to continue and have careers and prosper. And that's very gratifying for us. When I walk through the paddock and I meet people from all these different teams and brands who have come through our family, I've been with Mazda now for, as I said, almost a decade. So I've seen many of them come and go. It's an absolute joy for us to be able to give people a nod and to manage our time with them in such a way that there aren't any hard feelings. There aren't any. We don't have a lot of enemies in the paddock. Everybody seems to want to hang out and be around the Mazda guys, and that's great. We love it.
You're actually supplying the future for a lot of us. You're a future supply pipeline. And I love spending time with you, Mo. You always inspire me and get me feeling optimistic and energized about our sport. And again, congratulations to you and all your colleagues at Mazda and at Garage Team Mazda. What you're doing and how you tell the story of motorsport through what you do is wonderful. And I look forward to the next chapter for Mazda.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Francisque. I appreciate the invitation to come on and share our Mazda story. Judy, always great to see you.
You as well.
I'm loving this industry race week. It's really good. I've watched many of the sessions this week.
Thank you. Thank you.
And long may it continue.
The concept for EPARTRADE is basically, in my opinion, there's a big hole in the internet. So the internet started many years ago, but there's never been an online business community for racers on the World Wide Web. The need for EPARTRADE is actually quite obvious. Basically, people in the business of auto racing need a place online to hang out and to get their problems solved.
It's extremely simple for a buyer or for a supplier to interact on the platform. The first thing you need to do is sign in, which is free. And the second thing is, when you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information. If it's a company, you click on request more information, and then from there, it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
You can go to epartrade.com, you become part of a community of businesses in racing, and it makes sourcing products much easier than just on the internet or using Google.
At EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier through an email.
More than that, it's a place to go just to keep current every day. So it's a good place to start your workday in your racing business or in your offices of your professional race team. And you know you're current when it comes to new technology, industry news, technical papers, technical videos, all of that and more. We're not looking for a million hits per day. All we want is people who are really the volume buyers of racing products in the racing industry to be part of the little world of EPARTRADE. We have racing businesses participating from around the world. So you get suppliers from around the world, you get buyers from around the world.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
There are two types of people, racers and everyone else. Racer Magazine is for those who believe that racing is a way of life. Racer embodies the excellence that defines a sport driven by passion, courage, and ingenuity. Get 1 year of both Racer's print and digital edition for only $39 with instant access to our entire digital issue archive. Subscribe now at info.racer.com.